I had went through such a dramatic transformation in my life, and everything, like my whole mind, my whole perspective, the way that I saw the world and process things, like literally everything was different. And so I really didn't imagine, still holding on to these insecurities because there was such a dramatic transformation there. Hello and welcome to the Two is Greater Than One podcast,
where we share our experience with all the ups
and the downs
of working together without killing each other.
Not yet, anyway. I'm your host, Tyler Henson, and this is my wife, co-host, business partner, Jackie Henson.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be talking to you about
how we went from long distance to no distance.
No distance, because we literally do everything together pretty much all the time. There's almost like no point in time where we're actually apart. Very, very rarely.
Yeah, it makes me laugh when people call and like they know that we're together, but they're like, is Tyler nearby? And I'm like, are we awake or asleep or breathing? Then yes, he's right here.
Always. Yeah, always. Always there. Always together.
Which we never really meant for that to happen. Working together, we just kind of stumbled into that.
Yeah, that was not at any point like our goal. Like, we never said like, oh, it would be so amazing to be able to work together every single day and spend every waking moment together.
Which we do enjoy it. Like, we love it because we get to do a lot of fun things together, whether we're working or if we've got a break, then we could just run and grab some tacos. You guys know we love tacos. But we do enjoy it. But
for those of you that don't know, Jackie and I are the Henson Team. We started our own real estate business and real estate team. We actually have another team member as well. But so we just co-lead, right? We're not exactly like a husband and wife team per se, but we definitely co-lead the team, and didn't really anticipate it to start out that way. I actually started our real estate business. Jackie was just a huge supporter, is always a big cheerleader, and she wanted to go with me to all these showings because we weren't able to spend much time together because this was something that I had started doing outside of our jobs. And
so we both had full-time jobs. So on the weekends and weeknights, if he had to go do a showing, like I wanted to go with, like I wasn't just going to sit at home by myself. So I wanted to spend time with him. And then I got kind of started in the business that way. And then I ended up losing.
Everyone ended up loving it. Like, they love that you came with me,
mm-hmm.
and that you were like always there, and just presented this, I don't know, I guess familial aspect to it. Like it just made them feel comfortable that I wasn't just going and being a salesman. And so we actually decided to give you a position. It's like, well, if you're going to be part of this, like, let's bring you in and make you part of it, but you can just do the fun part, no pressure. Like, I'm not going to like force you into like this whole business thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like, I could really use your help. And so that was when we created your position, right? The client experience specialist.
So it was my job to make sure that everybody who worked with Tyler loved and remembered working with him. So part of that was our closing cookies.
So yeah, it was just me. We weren't actually a Henson Team just yet. So we didn't really anticipate it. Like even then, when it actually started, we didn't anticipate like fully working together. It was really just a supportive role and had no pressure that Jackie could kind of bounce in and out of as she wanted to. But anyway, we'll get to more of that at a different time. Mm-hmm. Today, we really want to talk about just kind of our story, because we don't really want to focus a whole lot on real estate.
Yeah.
We definitely want to talk about what it's like to work together, but not really kind of so much into the real estate aspect of it, but just the dynamic of us working together. It seems like such a far-fetched idea for most couples to work together with their spouse or their partner. And everyone always says, oh, I would kill him, or, oh, I would absolutely kill her. Like, there's no way we could work together.
I don't know how you do that. Like, I would kill him. Like, we would tear each other apart. We probably wouldn't be married anymore. And I'm like, well, it's not the easiest thing. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's totally worth it.
At times. It is. It's fun. It's fun. And it really is incredible to have someone that's really in it with you. But let's just talk about kind of how things got started. Like we met. You started coming up to Tennessee from Texas every summer to visit your sister that lives here. That happened to be married to my pastor.
Yeah.
And so we crossed paths a lot. They didn't actually set us up.
No, they didn't. It would be easy if we said it that way, but that's really not what happened. We just got to know each other through the youth group because I was in youth at the time. So when I came to visit, I would go to the youth services and you were kind of helping out with that. And then we ended up kind of getting reconnected when I was a little bit older and in college when we were, you were a groomsman in the wedding. There was a wedding for this lovely couple at the church, and I was in town to visit, helping with the wedding, and Tyler was one of the groomsmen, and we ended up sharing cake at the reception, and then kind of started talking throughout that whole trip. And then when I went back to college, we were FaceTiming and talking, and we were both kind of like, hey, like I could kind of see this going somewhere, but like this isn't going to be easy because we're only available to like text and call and FaceTime. Because
let's just back up though. Let's not overlook the fact that you always tell everyone in the most cheesy way.
Oh, but it's so cute.
We shared cake at that wedding reception,
and then never stopped sharing cake.
Been sharing cake ever since.
Oh,
oh,
it's so cute. It's really what happened though.
But I mean, there's definitely a connection there. But it was. I don't know. We really had to like make up our minds. Like this was a very unique situation, and like I came off this crazy, past, had this crazy history, and I was, I had struggled with for years with drug addiction and pain pill addiction, and just lived this crazy party lifestyle that perhaps we could get into at another point. But like I had literally like given everything over to God, just totally knew that I needed to work on myself and focus on just personal growth and my relationship with God, and was like not willing to date, whatsoever. And, I was kind of getting to that point, I believe, when we kind of made that connection. And so it's like, I'm not really dating for fun anymore. And it's like Jackie is totally like at the point in her life in college where she totally could still be, I guess. I don't know. You probably shouldn't date for fun anyway. But but like we had to make that decision and that distinction. It's like, all right, Jackie was going into her junior year of college. So that meant she had 2 more years of college in Texas. A world away, it felt like.
Yeah, it was a 13-hour drive, I think.
I had a good job in Tennessee. Like there was no moving, like especially as early on as this was. Like there was no move for this. Like we still, even though there was so many connections, we barely knew each other.
Yeah, and at the beginning of every relationship, I mean, everyone's guarded to at least some degree. So I think there was a little bit of that too, but we kind of had to decide like, okay, are we kidding ourselves here, or is this actually gonna like go somewhere? Like, can we see this relationship, going the distance? Because
or like, well, and just, I mean, there's no way to know that, and we kind of talked about that, but like from my perspective back then, it was like, are we actually gonna be serious about pursuing something, or are we just having fun? Because like, if we want to pursue this, like it's going to take intention because we're so far away.
Yeah.
If not, it's just going to fade. Like it's not going to have any substance or depth to it whatsoever. And then we would get to a certain point where things would kind of get awkward or whatever. So we really discussed it, and it's like, let's give this thing a shot. Let's see where this goes. Like we're not making any like commitments right now, but like we'll both be willing to see where this goes. And knowing how difficult it could be up for the challenge if as we get to know each other more and more, that the connection is there, and that's something we want to continue to pursue. So I booked a flight to College Station, Texas, to go to Texas A&M.
And he came down, and we had the most romantic first kiss at the airport. it plays in my head like a rom-com. It was so cute. He picked me up and spun me around in a circle. The sun was setting and it was adorable. I love it.
As much as I like to be like realistic about things and not like over romanticize things, like it literally was. Like it was this dusky, like Texas image, like fresh out of the airport. Like
you called me and you were like, where are you? And I was at the bottom and you were above. And so it was like we kind of had to like find each other. And then there was like a running. Like I ran to you and then you like picked me up and we hugged and then we kissed and you spun me in a circle. Like it was just such rose colored. I love it.
But and it was amazing. But it's not what everybody wants to hear. Nobody wants to hear the good stuff. So,
but you have to have both. So, such a sweet.
The challenges, right? The challenges. Everyone who has ever attempted any kind of long distance relationship knows it is ultra challenging.
It is not easy.
And I think, I don't know. What do you think was like the most difficult part for you? Just for you, in your side of things, as far as the whole long distance thing?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I struggled with a lot of, people who I thought were friends, but just a lot of the people who I was around all the time, like they were like, oh yeah, some boyfriend in Tennessee. Okay, like sure. Like not that I wouldn't have a boyfriend, but I think that they all just kind of assumed that you just wanted one thing out of me and that it was just going to be like a physical relationship whenever you came to visit, but it wasn't that way, you know? So I think I had a hard time explaining to people that it was like, no, like he's my boyfriend, like we are emotionally involved, you know, like it's deeper than that, you know? Yeah. Well, what was the hardest part for you? I mean, because you were more established in your life, like you didn't have...
Well, I mean, you know, aside from just like, you know, not being able to spend time together,
which
you know,
stunk.
probably the biggest thing for me is, you know, is like, you know, we had to work through like the insecurities that I did not even realize that I had.
Right.
And, you know, that came from, you know, past experience. You know, it came from like infidelity and past relationships.
Right. Well, let's back it up. So you mentioned the insecurities. What was the hardest part for you?
The hardest part, I think, you know, for me was, as you know, like having to work through those insecurities that I really didn't know that I had. Like I didn't realize that, you know, I had insecurities that came from the past, like in some past relationships where there was infidelity there. Like I had went through such a dramatic transformation in my life, and everything, like my whole mind, my whole perspective, the way that I saw the world and process things, like literally everything was different. And so I really didn't imagine, you know, still holding on to these insecurities because there was such a dramatic transformation there. But, you know, like I believe that intuition is just pattern recognition. That's all that it is, right? Intuition is pattern recognition. And so if we've been cheated on in the past and been cheated on multiple times, then we start recognizing that pattern, right? In the beginning, if something looks a certain way or feels a certain way or seems a certain way, then our minds will draw that conclusion that, oh, this happened in the past, this is what's happening now.
Right.
And even though that wasn't quite the situation, and oftentimes it's not, you know, we tend to trust our intuition, and oftentimes our intuition is right, but it's also based off of our experience. So if our experience from our past is that we've been cheated on and this happened every time, then once that happens, we will assume that that's the next steps. But we know that everyone is different. Life is organic, and that isn't always necessarily the case. But nevertheless, the insecurity was there, and I had to work. That was up to me to work through it, and it requires grace on my part. It required grace on your part. It required receiving grace from God and understanding that even though that was from the past, I can't create a rule for life going forward. And I think that's why we often stay so guarded in our lives, is that we create these rules for life and the way that we relate to people and the way that we interact with people based off of prior experience with like one or two individuals, or maybe even just 3 or 4 individuals. We got to understand that everyone is different. We can't just draw that conclusion based off of we can't draw a conclusion about one person based off of past experience with a different person.
Right.
Because everyone is so different. But that was really what I was struggling with. And, maybe we went a little too deep into that, but that was like kind of my biggest thing, that was just like, I did not realize this was still there.
Right.
And so for one, I had to forgive them. I had to forgive myself. I had to be willing to let it go. And I had to realize that you had not given me any reason to not trust you. I think that seems to be the general consensus with like long distance is this lack of trust. And I would say it's probably from past experience, but and I hate to say it, but like that was what I struggled with. So, one thing that we did going forward is that I really appreciated that helped me to work through that. It's like, it's going to require trust, and we have to trust each other.
Right.
100%, or it's not going to work. Like we have to have this mutual understanding, which is what trust is, right? It's like understanding and believing that, you are trustworthy and that I'm trustworthy. And literally, it kind of wasn't fair because like you didn't have to worry about me. Like I worked and I worked out. I did this jail ministry and went to church, and literally that was about it.
That's true.
But you had this, college social life and all these things. So anyway, but one thing we really did was we agreed to never put tension or put each other in a position to where trust had to be really stretched.
Right. Yeah.
That was one thing that we really agreed on that really meant the world. It's like, well, I need you to trust me, but it's like, and it wasn't that we never did anything, but it's like, kind of an over communication kind of thing. It's like, because there's this gap in information that we could feel with insecurities about each other. And we kind of started to realize as time went on, like, you kind of had a little bit of that as well. We just had to put each other in a situation, or we just didn't want to put each other in a situation where we really had to trust tremendously, right? And information was the key of that. No one not constant communication, but just information. Where we're going and who we're with, what's going on,
happening.
Yeah, and just kind of checking in, because in long distance, you're really kind of living two separate lives together.
Yeah, like trying to meet in the middle while you're not anywhere near each other was very difficult.
Yeah. And so, the FaceTimes made a huge difference.
Yeah.
We read books together, we prayed together. We had FaceTime dates where we might cook dinner together, and just being intentional about that rather than just squeezing in time. I don't know, would you say it took a lot of intention to bring each other into our lives and make each other part of it rather than just finding time outside of life. And I think that's why a lot of long distance relationships are doomed to fail. It's because you just don't have this aspect of combining lives or being together, and because they're not physically there,
it's a lot harder.
Well, yeah, it's a lot harder, but because they're not physically there, most people will give priority to the ones that are.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because it's it's easy to be in person and it's well, this person's here, so I'm going to let you go and talk to this person, where it's having to be intentional about even though you're not close to me, I want to call and I want to talk to you. I'm going to make that a point. When I make dinner, I'm going to call. When I'm on my way home, I'm going to call. And I think it helped lay the foundation for some solid communication for us even now.
Yeah, because that's all we had.
Yeah,
was talking. We had the FaceTimes, but that's all we had was conversation. And the only way we could really do anything together that way was just to talk,
Yeah.
while we did other things. And so, and one thing I think that was really profound about that, like what we kind of did for us, was like setting dates and making dates, because it's like, if we were there in person, we would have dates and we would go on dates where we would block out time for each other and not spend any time with anybody else. And so it's easy to, to say, oh, well, it's just a FaceTime call, like, hey, let me call you back kind of thing. And like friends and even family kind of have this expectation. It's like, well, they're not there, but like they would kind of respect our time if we were out to dinner physically.
Right.
It was just us saying, hey, we're going to have to treat this like a date that we were on, like if we were in the same town.
Yeah, except you're not going to come pick me up. I'm going to pick up my phone.
But we did have frequent visits.
We
Like,
did. Yeah, you were able to
see
come
you
visit probably once every 4 to 6 weeks.
Probably, yeah, I would say so.
Which I'm so grateful for that. I think the Lord really provided you with a good job so that you could come down and visit me, selfishly. But we spent a ton of quality time together while you were there. It wasn't just like, oh, we only talked on FaceTime and then you came to visit, and that was when we would cuddle on the couch and like go out on dates. Like, we did still continue that like intentional conversation while you were there. We did eat a lot of tacos.
We did eat a lot of tacos. That was really where all that began.
It's true.
And they still have kind of these, I don't know, what do you call it? These sentimental feelings, these nostalgia, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Eating tacos together, just these good memories. But yeah, I mean, I guess, the only drawback to that was like we would carve out several days with each other. And that made it seem more like a vacation time away, because I would take off work. Typically I would take off work on like a Friday and a Monday, or maybe Thursday, Friday, and Monday, to have a long weekend, rather than, having to take a whole week off from work. And that way, it was only like 2 or 3 days off at a time, and then we could do that. But like, I was taking time off of work and from, any of my responsibilities. Like, you still went to class. I actually like snuck into some classes a couple of times.
Yeah, you snuck into my like atmospheric science class, I think, and you ended up taking notes in the class, and then you were like, your notes stink. Mine are so much better. And I was like, then send me your notes to my class. What the heck? It was crazy.
I had to blend in.
I actually made you
incognito.
You were incognito. I actually made you walk across campus and turn in one of my assignments too, didn't I?
Oh yeah.
It was freezing too.
Yeah, and I could not find the class, the building, nothing. Like, you just said the name of the building, like, oh yeah, I'll be able to find that.
It's like over here
somewhere. It's got to be like a huge plaque of this building.
It was not.
It's not labeled whatsoever. They don't label the buildings at all. Not easily found anyway.
No, yeah, they're very tiny. Bless your heart. God, you were awesome. You still are awesome. Anyway, all that to say, yeah, we really like shelled out a lot of time for you to come visit, and then we got to have more of like the relationship stuff there. But it was like I would still go to class, but I was taking off of work too. I think there was only like 1 or 2 visits where I couldn't get a shift picked up by somebody else, and I had to work. But
yeah, but it wasn't, you were a server, so it wasn't a very long shift or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I think, those were awesome, but I think like, as we got closer, our visits together were incredible, as much as they were incredible. I think as we got closer to like getting married after we got engaged, right? Didn't even tell that story. I have to go back and tell that. But as we got closer to getting married, we started realizing how much our visits were like vacations. And it kind of, I don't know about you, but like it made me kind of nervous that, we had all of our time together was like vacation time and not like living life time.
That's
you
true.
know, not like, oh, waiting to see each other after we got off work and, you know, stuff like that. And just the stresses of the week. And then, you know, like I was carving out like, you know, 4 to 5 days at a time to come see you. And it's like in everyday life, like we're not going to have that.
Right.
You know, I was working a full-time job, and then, you know, of course you ended up getting a full-time job, you know, soon after. And like we're only seeing each other on the evenings and on weekends. And we didn't really account for that when in our visits, but we didn't really have any choice.
Right. Yeah, we really didn't. If we wanted to spend time together, it was like it was going to have to be vacation for you to come visit. I don't think I was really afraid of that though when I moved up here. You know, so after I was able to graduate college, for those of you who don't know, I was able to graduate college like a semester early, after we got engaged. And so I was able to move up here and I stayed at my mother-in-law's house, and her and I got very close at the time, which I love. She's just, your mother is just the best. And I say that honestly, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, my mother-in-law. Okay. No, I absolutely love her. And she opened her home to me. Her and I got really close, but you and I were able to do more like dating and like real life stuff where it's like, hey, I've got to run and get this. Like, let's go do it. Or like my last tax refund that I got from like being a single person, like you went with me to go buy my first camera, like down in Florence. So it's like we were able to do more like, I don't know, like you said, like living life stuff instead of vacation stuff. But we didn't have much of that before we got married.
No, not a whole lot, but that was a very helpful period of time. Like, even though it was kind of too late to back out at that point. Like,
Did you want to back out?
no, absolutely not.
Do you want to back out now?
It's too late.
We always joke about the return period, and he's like, where he's past his 30-day return period. He's like, I'll trade in for a new model. I'm like, good luck.
There's never a return period. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. But
I love you.
But that was that was a very instrumental time.
It was.
To be able to experience that, you know, even though it was kind of at the point of no return, like just being able to like date and like see each other after work and just the normal things that like we didn't have before. And it was able to just kind of give some reassurance. It's like, you know, we can move with this thing. Like we can be fluid and flexible, and
we can adapt to the stresses of life instead of having to shell out several days of vacation.
Well, and it's just, I don't know about you, but like in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know, yeah, this worked before, but like, are we not going to get along like in day-to-day stuff, or is this going to feel different, or, you know, not be the same, you know, or anything like that, which I was excited. You know, we were both super excited just to be able to be in the same town and be able to actually date each other and see each other more frequently. And of course now, you know, I just can't get away from you.
Which so we were long distance relationship for probably about a year and a half, 2 years. Is that right?
Yeah. I guess year and a half. Yeah.
It was a year and a half. Yeah, that's right.
Because it was pretty much right at like the year mark when we got engaged. And then about 6 months later, you moved up here to Tennessee with my mom.
Yeah. So it was a year of visits and FaceTimes and phone calls and, you know, intentional FaceTime dates and stuff like that. But then finally getting, like Tyler said, to be in the same town and like see each other. And it's like, hey, I'm going to come by and bring you lunch. Like he was still working out during lunch. So I would go to the gym and sit in the gym and eat my lunch if we had the same lunch break. So, you know, it was fun to be able to do that kind of thing with my fiance that I always wanted to do with my boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just kind of getting prepared for marriage and all that stuff. And unfortunately, I think we're out of time, but I do think that's a really great stopping point. We're going to have to stay tuned for more as we continue to share our story and how we got into working together a little bit more, and just a little bit more about our relationship and setting the foundation, and I think a lot of this really laid the foundation for us being able to successfully work together now. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe successfully is used a bit loosely.
Success is different to
Some
everybody.
days it does not feel like success.
That's true. But
I
we
don't know
make
if
it.
there's any days that it does, if I'm being honest.
Oh, what? There are days.
We always have fun, but it is always hard. Until next time, this is the Two is Greater Than One podcast,
Where we share all the ups
and the downs
of working together without killing each other.
Not yet, anyway. Thanks for tuning in.
See you soon.